And we are live.
All right, I will go ahead and kick off the November 23rd Finance Committee. I need a motion to excuse Mr. Brinoff.
Make a motion to excuse.
And I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to set the agenda and adopt.
Mr. Betcher, I have two things I'd like to add to the agenda.
All right.
One would be vacation carryover, which Mr. Lanzer is going to talk about, and the other would be community development block grant funding, which I'm going to talk about here this evening and then also at council tonight.
Okay. Motion to approve the agenda as updated.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as updated.
And I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So nobody's registered to address the committee. We have minutes from October 26th. So a motion to approve the Finance Committee minutes from October 26th.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
And I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we will move into new business with the financial packet for October 2020.
All righty. 1 second. So for the month of October 2020, the village has an adjusted bank balance of $2.8 million. As always, of this, approximately $2.6 million is found in the village's primary checking account, with the remaining balance resting in the village's two law enforcement supplemental funds. In October, the village had 95 payments cleared in the amount of $285,000. The top 5 payment payees for October fiscal year 20 were to payroll in the amount of $114,000, Welsh Excavating in the amount of $32,000, Rumpke in the amount of $18,000, and Ohio Police Fire Pension in the amount of $17,000, and last is River City Furniture in the amount of $9,100. Now, the payroll might look a little high this month. Typically, we're around between $70,000 and $85,000. The reason for that is there was an extra pay period in the month of October. River City Furniture, I believe, is furniture that was purchased by the village using COVID funds as replacement furniture to make our furniture a little bit more sanitary and easier to clean due to increased cleaning requirements. As for receipts, the village received 28 payments totaling $325,000 for the month. The largest sources of revenue over this period include a payment from Hamilton County, which totaled $128,000, and a payment from the state of Ohio that totaled $69,000. Both payments were receipts by the village related to the village's several COVID-19 initiatives, CARES Act funding. As for the general fund, revenue for the month of October was $133,000. This figure is approximately $7,700 more than what the village generated over the same period last year. The bulk of this increase is due to an increase in income tax receipts for the month in the amount of $5,300. Total income tax receipts for the year through October fiscal year 20 are $713,000. This amounts nearly 5% more, or $33,000 more, than what the village was able to generate through October fiscal year 19. So trending in the right direction. I can talk about this more later when I review total revenue year to date currently. As for appropriations, the village spent $171,000 during October fiscal year 20. This figure is a slight decrease from what the village spent during October fiscal year 19, a difference of about $6,000. Total village general fund spend for the village remains significantly below that of the previous year in the amount of $78,000. Village administration continues to anticipate a general decline in total village spend through the end of the year. When compared to that from last year, again, this is the result of a strategic reorganization of village personnel and the implementation of strict purchasing and spending controls among village departments in an effort to protect village resources in response to the impact of COVID-19 on the local economy. End of my October financial report. I'm happy to answer any questions members have.
No questions, just nice to see that the income tax revenue didn't take a hit for the year like we thought it could.
Yeah, I'll dive more into that here shortly, but good signs there.
Okay. Ms. Cheney, any questions on that? I think you said no. I'm reading your lips. All right.
Okay, I would add to this that there is some discussion with the Ohio Municipal League right now about the impact working from home might have on income tax receipts in communities. We've taken a cursory look at this right now and have determined that this is probably not going to affect Gulf Manor in a negative way, because most of the people that we would lose income to would be the city of Cincinnati. The larger communities, Cincinnati, Norwood, the larger cities in the greater Cincinnati area have more to worry about than what we would in this type of scenario. In fact, this may very well help us. The issue is enforcement, and that being the case, I'm sure we'll hear more discussion about this as OML meets throughout the first part of next year.
Thank you. Year-to-date revenue overview.
Yeah, hold on one second. So good news, as I kind of alluded to before, for, let me get back to that document. Sorry, I'm juggling multiple documents here. Yeah, as of today, November 23rd, 2020, the village has received a total of $1.9 million in general fund revenue. This amounts 3% more, or $62,000 more than what the village budgeted for this year. So we're not yet through November, and with 1 month to go, we've already surpassed forecasted revenue projections. To date, the village has received $658,000 in general fund property tax receipts. This is approximately $63,000 more than what was budgeted for. And in addition to this, the village has generated $757,000 in municipal income tax receipts. This is $42,000 more than what the village anticipated to receive through the end of the year. And we are tracking close to matching, if not surpassing, the fiscal year 19 total income tax receipt number. So in terms of general fund revenue, we're right where we need to be. In fact, we're surpassing what was forecasted and budgeted. Any questions?
I don't think so. That's good. Reappropriations for 2020 COVID funding.
We are not requesting any reappropriations this evening for COVID funding. There's one item for the next council meeting night in December that we are probably going to have to look at something. Hold on one second. I can dive into it more deeply here. Okay, here it is. And it relates to the police department. So we, village administration, are requesting that the police department conduct a thorough benefit and cost analysis of their department. Reason being is COVID-19. So as you're aware, COVID-19 has resulted in several challenges for municipalities across the state, and in particular among police departments, especially smaller police departments. So among the challenges experienced by our police department relates to the use of vacation time among officers, So several village officers have vacation benefit time that exceeds the allowed carryover threshold. The stated reason for this was due to a need to ensure adequate coverage in the village when creating biweekly schedules in a COVID-19 environment. And as a result, several officers had their scheduled vacations rescinded in order to meet this challenge. We in village administration are requesting that the police department submit a recommendation or multiple recommendations that is both reasonable to the affected officers as well as village resources. The leadership of the Gulf Manor Police Department are asked to submit their recommendation and any associated financial impacts to village administration next week in order to ensure sufficient time to plan for end of the year supplemental reappropriations. So until that's worked out and there's a decision made on what we want to do in terms of potentially paying out excess vacation, I think it's best to delay the reappropriations until December. Any thoughts about that? And of course, whatever they recommend, once we take a look at it, we're going to submit to this committee for approval and ultimately send it to council to make a final decision.
So either looking at a payout or rolling over.
Yeah, so I think there's really three options here. One option is to go with village policy. And village policy is that we do not pay out for vacation time. The second option is to do a payout of some amount of hours in excess of the 120 hours that village employees are allowed to roll over to next year. And then the third option would be to enable those employees to roll over those excess hours into 2021. And I think there's a good rationale for each one of those options. And I also think that there's a good point of hesitation with each one of those options as well. So what we are asking is for the police department to do that analysis and tell us what, in their judgment, is the best option for their department moving forward.
So above the 120 hours, do we have an idea of how many hours we're talking of paid vacation that we might be looking at just to?
So we did a cursory look at this a few weeks ago. It was real high level, 30,000 foot view. So we didn't dive too deeply into it. But Ron, if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at 5 employees within the police department, and based on the figures that I put together, and again, it was rough, it was around $12,000.
It actually will affect 4 police employees and 1 person in the administration.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to get an idea of what we're talking about looking at. You said $12,000.
Yeah, in that
okay.
All
right.
If I could weigh in,
Sure.
We've had kind of side discussions on this recently. This was, Andy, that was very, very precise and formal how you delivered that. But the thinking behind this is why we all understand that we have vacation hours and you need to use them. You can't carry them indefinitely because in the past, the amount of vacation built up for employees that are no longer with us to the point where when they left, they had a gigantic payout. We all want to avoid that. But it's been difficult, short staff throughout the year, to tell people they have to use vacation hours or forfeit them during these circumstances. I've brought up in the past looking at models that other communities use. I know there's some communities that will, on a quarterly basis, examine how many benefit hours employees are carrying and then give them the option to cash them out, just so they know throughout the year where they stand. And then that way it controls the cost, it spreads it through the year. And and the employees don't get blindsided near the end of the year, which is tough. It's this year, for me to burn my vacation, I can't go anywhere. And we're still dealing with issues within the village. So we've been trying to look at the best approach to this that benefits everybody involved. We'll examine who's carrying hours. I'm one of those people, but I know by the end of the year I will use them, even though I'll still be on the phone and emails all day with the PD. And I know some of the other people that are carrying hours will use them as well. But yeah, we'll work on that in the next few weeks to get that information to you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else on that? I mean, I guess we'll have an update on at the next meeting in December.
That's the plan. So it needs to be, this challenge needs to be solved by the next meeting in December.
Yeah, I was going to say we're running out of time.
That's the last possible meeting. And I want to make sure that our books are cleared and ready to go so I can get rolling on closing out the books for 2020, January 1st.
Thank you. So I know we didn't really do any appropriations for the COVID funding, but you have the COVID grant funding. Is that a separate topic, or is that kind of roll into that as well?
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
Jim.
I was going to say there's really nothing new to report on that at this point. There are reporting requirements out of the 3 separate funds that we have to maintain by the end of the year. We had some additional expenses over the last 2 weeks with the COVID exposure that we had in the administration building. And some of those expenses will be chargeable to the COVID expense, so it won't hit the village. The one thing that I would make council aware of is there's one $50,000 pot of money that is based on reimbursement, which means there is no specific fund that had to be created for that money because we do not hold it. However, we will have to pay for those services up front and then send the receipts and the proof of payment into the county for any reimbursement, which would then go back to the general fund. The unfortunate thing is we have the conclusion of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 coming. That probably means that the funding is going to come out of 2021 or 2020 rather, and the monies sent back to the general fund won't happen until 2021.
Yeah, I was thinking about that might skew the numbers a little bit, but I mean, what are we anticipating those expenses, the reimbursable expenses, to be?
We have a $50,000 pot available to us, so we're going to try and look at as many things as we can possibly charge towards that. The other thing that has come to light is some of the communities are using that funding to reimburse police funding or their first responder funding, which in our case would be the police department, as they were the first on the scene with COVID. So we're also looking at making sure that we divert as much of those funds as we can to COVID funding.
All right. Anything else for COVID grant funding? No. All right. So appropriations for 2021. I know it probably kind of falls under the same umbrella, but just.
Yeah, so this is the fun part, right? So the 2021 appropriations budget has been created. I've been working on it a little while. It's been made available for the public to review. And I'll just dive into it real fast. The 2021 appropriations budget for the Village of Gulf Manor was built upon the forecasted carryover balances of $575,000 general fund, which is Fund 1000, $68,943 police levy, Fund 2903, and $900,362 for the street levy, levy Fund 2904. Now, these balances were estimated based upon revised revenue and appropriation forecasts conducted from earlier this year, when the village's partnering organizations believe that the village revenues could be and would be detrimentally impacted as a result of the coordinated responses at all levels of government in response to COVID-19. For this purpose, for the purpose of this budget, those revenues for fiscal year 20 have not been adjusted. However, village administration now forecasts, and I spoke to it briefly before, that village revenues will exceed the adjusted fiscal year 20 figures, and as a result will positively impact the carryover balances across several funds to begin next year. So future budget documents will reflect this more accurate revenue figure, and as a result reflect a more accurate carryover figure for fiscal year 21 beginning January 1st, 2021. Does that make sense? It's a little complicated.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just looking at the numbers there, and just versus what you just said. I mean, property tax and income tax revenues alone contribute to an extra more than $100,000 of revenue.
Right, close to $100,000 below expenses as well. So
absolutely.
The reason for doing that is I didn't want to make it too complicated for myself when I'm navigating back and forth budget documents, for the county auditor when I'm submitting different budget documents to them, and to you all and the public when reviewing them. Because when you compare, the tax budget from earlier this year to the appropriations budget to end the year, the numbers would look somewhat different. So just keep that in mind. I mean, $575,000 is a great number, but it's going to be potentially significantly more than that. As for revenues, for fiscal year 21, several village revenue sources have been increased for several funds. These updates were made in order to more accurately reflect revenue figures received by the village over the last 2 years. So for the general fund, administration forecasts income tax receipts to be $785,000 for the year. Furthermore, village administration forecasts property tax receipts to be in the range of $650,000 for next year. Similar increases in property tax receipts were made both for the police levy and the street levy. For the general fund for fiscal year 21, total revenue is estimated to be $2,016,238. This is an increase of 7% from fiscal year 20. Again, it's important to note that updated revenue figures for fiscal year 20 have not been reflected in this appropriation document as of yet. Currently, again, village income tax revenues exceed the fiscal year 20 budgeted figure, and as well as for the general fund property taxes for this year. And we believe fiscal year 21 revenues will closely match the actual revenue figures for fiscal year 20 and, for that matter, fiscal year 19. Furthermore, further budget documents will reflect the actual fiscal year 20 revenue figures beginning after the first of the year. Now the fun part, appropriations. Unless anyone has any questions about revenues, I'm happy to answer. Okay. Total general fund appropriations for next year are estimated to be $1,984,000. This figure marks a 4.5% increase in total general fund appropriations from this year, fiscal year 20. This figure was formulated based upon the assumption of a 3% merit increase for village employees and a 10% increase in employee health insurance expenses, as well as a strategic restructuring of certain village positions. As in previous years, the department receiving the largest share of village appropriations is the village police department. The village's police department is set to receive $1,039,000, which constitutes 52% of the total general fund appropriations. Now, in total dollars, the police department's increase in appropriations for fiscal year 21 is nearly $38,000. The increase in police department appropriations is the result of increasing personnel expenses. That's the driver. Yet, despite the increase in total dollars, the percentage of general fund appropriations scheduled for the Village Police Department for fiscal year 21 is identical to that from fiscal year 20 at 52%. Other village departments set to receive increased appropriations in fiscal year 21 include the mayor and administrative office departments, which is your general administration department, and the clerk treasurer department. The increases are $29,000 and $4,500 respectively. The increase in appropriations for the mayor and administrative offices department is due primarily to the addition of a permanent part-time property maintenance position. That's the increase. As for the increase in the clerk treasurer department, the increase is due in large part to increased costs associated with tax collection fees levied upon the village by the county. So as we increase property tax revenue, the county gets their cut of that increase. The amount that they get from us is tied to the amount that they collect for us. Total appropriations for the police levy, again, Fund 2903 for fiscal year 21, are $241,000. This figure marks a $13,000 decline in appropriations when compared to that from fiscal year 20. The reason for the reduction in appropriations for fiscal year 21 for this fund is due to the paying off of several village police vehicles during the 2020 fiscal year that were paid from this fund. Appropriations for the street levy, Fund 2904, remain unchanged from previous years at the $300,000 annual spend level. Are there any questions about appropriations from members of the committee?
I think I'm good. Ms. Cheney, anything on your end?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Now, the good part, the end of the year carryover. Village administration forecasts that general fund revenues will exceed appropriations in the amount of nearly $32,000. This balance, if they're at the end of the year, will be added to the carryover balance to begin the year, bringing the year-end amount to $606,000. Again, revenue and appropriation figures for fiscal year 20 remain unchanged from previous budget documents and do not reflect actual totals. So what happens this year, again, isn't represented in this budget document. So we expect, village administration expects, actual carryover to begin and end the year to exceed the figures that's in those budgets, in the appropriations budget. That's the end of my report. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone on the committee has.
No, I just, it's good to kind of see what next year's looking like. I would be concerned about municipal income tax for next year. If we see continued struggle with recovery from COVID and stuff like that. The carryover, I think, I asked about that last month. And just knowing where we were a couple of years ago to being able to have a quarter of the year in expenses carryover, I think is a huge, so kudos to you and Ron and the rest of the administration and leadership for helping us get there.
I'll second that. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
It's a pleasure.
I'm sure. So do you need a motion from us to recommend council for the appropriations for 2021? Is that my understanding?
I believe so, yes.
All right. Any questions on that before we make that motion from Mr. Friedhoff?
No questions.
All right. So I need a motion to recommend the appropriations budget for 2021 to council for approval.
I'll make a recommendation to approve
Second.
it for council.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And then let's get into that part-time code enforcement official.
So I'm going to try and share something here real quick. So if everything worked, maybe it'll work, maybe not. Here we go. So this is the website, and I added to your packet today 3 links down here at the bottom, if everybody can see them. These are the community development block grant funding applications that we submitted today for the 3-year round of funding for that program. Now, you may recall in 18, 19, and 2020, those funds were allocated to the part-time police department code enforcement efforts that were done by Officer Matthews. So this 3 different link set here are actually a separate application for 21, 22, and 23. So those are out there for you guys to take a look at. No need to do it now. What I'd like you to do is look at it, give me a call if you have feedback. And this is also something that the rest of the council members will have access to, and I'll talk about that later. So I'm going to back out of this. So what we'd like to do is take this code enforcement program to the next level. So we've done a good job in terms of identifying some of the minor types of property maintenance issues that are out there in the village. But what is becoming evident is that Detective Matthews has done such a good job in ferreting out a lot of the issues that we have in the village. And we're seeing her work be effective because we're seeing property values go up and a lot of different issues get resolved. It's now necessary for us to have someone who's able to spend that full 20 hours a week, actually boots on the ground, so to speak, walking around the village, looking at individual properties, and most importantly, working with our property owners and our residents in terms of solving some of the issues that they have with their property. For example, we're looking at 1930s, 1940s, 1950s era housing, which is the bulk of what we have here in the village. Many of these homes have issues with sidewalks, with retention walls that are leaning and falling down, those types of things, issues with roofs, lots of exterior types of problems that need to be repaired. What we don't want to do is to go out and identify these problems, point these out to people and say, hey, you need to fix this, have a nice day. What we would like to do is tap into some of the resources that are available to us through the county and through other agencies, such as people working cooperatively, to offer solutions to some of these problems or assistance when they're pointed out. And this new code enforcement official would have responsibility for managing that. We would also see this individual managing the components of the Cdbg program in terms of the reimbursement that we get from the county. This is all taking us to the next level now, which should help us continue to improve our code enforcement efforts. Now, a side note to this is while we're projecting that this position be part-time during 2021, we know that the executive committee will be working on landlord licensing and those initiatives during 2021. And if we come to a conclusion and a solution with that, that program may also generate the ability for us to move this position to a full-time position at some point in 2022. So 2021 will be a prime opportunity for us to be able to really improve what we've done and the success that we've had thus far. In this current round of funding for Cdbg, we're asking, the chart that I saw said that our ask could be as low as 35,000. So it's nice to let you know what the low ask is. The highest ask was 38,000, and that would be those amounts of money spread over 3 years. If other communities for some reason do not participate in this program, those funds that would have been allotted to them will get spread across the other communities. So what I've done is, you'll see when you look at these applications, is I've asked for $15,000 for each year for a total of $45,000 asked, which is $7,000 higher than what they're saying that they would allot to us. My thought in that is, we'll ask for what we believe can be a good substantial base for this program, and hope that we'll that the powers that make the decisions on this will give us what we've asked for. In addition to this, this program will be put on our website for a period of 5 days for public comment. I wanted to talk with this committee and council about this evening. Ms. Cheney may remember that there were public hearings that were previously required for this program, but with COVID being a thing that we're managing today, they have asked for us, rather than hold a public hearing, to put it out on our website for public comment. So that would be public comment from the council members, from any resident who sees it and wishes to comment, or as the council members as residents. So I'll have a narrative with that, along with the links of those 3 applications that are already out there for the public to view. Any questions about this program? And we'll talk a bit more about this in my report when we get to the full council meeting.
I don't think so. So how long, you said how it has to be up there for 5 days?
Five continuous days, yes.
Okay.
So I would project we'll get it posted probably Wednesday. Village offices are closed for the holiday on Thursday and Friday. So we'll leave the public comment period open until the end of business next Friday, which is, I think, December something. What is next Friday? December the 4th. It's a new month.
And this person would be a separate, this would be a separate position from the existing person doing code enforcement, correct?
Correct. It would be a new hire. We would still see utilizing Detective Matthews for some of the citing powers that are needed. What we will do is, I'm working on a job description for the position. I will have that ready for the executive committee to review in January and to give feedback and approve. And then we'll come to the finance committee with an approved position description to ask for the funding for the position. That would be the second council meeting in January. And then after that happens, we will post the position publicly to accept applications, both internal and external.
Okay. Has there been, this is probably delayed on this, but any conversations with other, I know, like doing shared services type position with any other municipalities?
We have. There has been some discussion with Amberley Village, but that is a long, more entangled discussion with some of the other things that we're working on.
Sure. Okay. Cool. All right. Anything else on that from the committee? All right. Plan performance merit increases.
Yeah, this was on the schedule just to reaffirm the council that you folks are aware that we have people starting in January who are eligible for merit increases right off the bat. So approval of this budget means that we will move forward with merit increases. And just as a reminder, that means there are formal evaluations and the employees need to have a rating of meets expectation or higher to get the 3% increase. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
All right. I did have one quick item from prior meetings that I forgot to mention. I know we talked about doing an RFP for bank services. Has that gone out?
No, it has not.
Okay.
We're still in the review. I'm talking with Terry, Mr. Donlin about what exactly the requirements on our end are, and then with some COVID-related issues in our
Okay.
department. It's a priority of ours.
Just curious. That's all I have. Any other announcements or old business? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Great. We'll
Thank you.
see you back here at 7.
Thank you.